If you're leading a team of high performers, conflict is inevitable. You see, you've got a team of people who are highly invested in the success of their project and in their own personal success. Therefore, there's going to be differing opinions, maybe even heightened emotions. As a leader, it's up to you to make sure that conflict is a force for good rather than a detrimental force on a high-performing team. In this video, we're going to talk about how conflict occurs on teams, what leaders can do in order to cultivate a conflict-positive environment for team members, and the ramifications of a team leader that doesn't, conflict avoidance, and how that can really undermine a team's success. We'll also talk about what to do if your team is experiencing conflict right now. But before I get started, if you're new here, welcome to Motivation Code. Motivation Code is an assessment that helps everyone understand what motivates them. If you're a team leader, it's helpful in understanding how your team is motivated so that you can more actively manage things like conflict and ensure that your high performers are finding fulfillment in their jobs, in their tasks, and that leads to better success. You can click the link in the description box below and learn more about the Motivation Code. You can also read the blog post about how to manage conflict on highly performing teams. But first, how does conflict occur? Well, researchers did a study and they found that conflict on high performing teams happens in two ways. Either team members have differing opinions about task-oriented things like resource allocation, policies, procedures, and other things associated with the job, or conflict happens because of personal differences on the team. Conflict can arise either from perceived differences or actual differences, but this isn't something that leaders need to shy away from. Actually, the best time to manage conflict is before conflict even occurs. Establishing highly effective communication channels where everyone on a team feels safe and secure in expressing dissent, differing opinions, and being able to really explain their point of view in a safe place where they feel heard and that their opinions and their ideas matter can go a long way with preventing conflict from derailing a highly performing team or a very important project. When leaders protect communication and ensure that team members feel heard and that their opinions matter, conflict becomes a force for good. On teams where conflict is proactively managed, this baseline resiliency develops. Grievances clear quickly because everyone feels safe about communicating dissent. So when something isn't going the way someone thinks it should, they feel safe in expressing that. A conflict-positive culture where people feel like their voices are heard leads to greater transparency. People are more open with their beliefs, with their opinions, with their ideas. And it adds to a marketplace of ideas for your team that leads to greater growth. When people on a highly performing team see that conflict is being addressed quickly and rapidly and that it actually can lead to something that's a positive for the end result that everyone is aspiring to, they see that conflict becomes less threatening. They're more likely to express their dissent. They're more likely to communicate things that might not be part of belief systems of a team. It also fosters greater trust and security. Team members feel greater trust with other team members. They feel greater trust in leadership. They trust their managers because they know their managers are going to hear them and that the managers are going to advocate for them and for their positions. This leads to better problem solving. Sometimes the most wacky idea becomes a great impetus for finding a better solution to a problem that a team might be facing. This leads to greater innovation, greater ideas. When team members feel like they can communicate openly, when they feel like they can connect with leadership in a way that they are going to be uplifted, heard, and that their opinion and their beliefs and their data matters, it leads to better engagement. And it leads to happier team members who stick around. It leads to teams that retain their top talent and up-level everyone else around them. If you're dealing with conflict right now, it's not too late. You can still establish a conflict-positive environment for your team just by having some one-on-one conversations. Encourage your team members to bring dissenting opinions. Encourage them to express what they really think about the way a project is going. Encourage them to express their opinions about how the other team members are performing and ideas that they might have towards greater success for a particular project. It's really important to understand your team, to know what motivates them, to know why they show up as a high performer day in and day out. You can leverage things like the motivation code, an assessment that tells you what motivates your team members so that you can help them find greater fulfillment. It also might explain some of the reasons why your team members might be finding conflict on the job. Identify the root causes of conflict. Don't shy away from having deep conversations that really matter. Make sure your team members know that they have a safe space, even if they didn't feel safe before. Make sure that everything that is held in confidence and that they feel that you really do hear what it is that they're trying to say. It's really important to find win-win solutions in a time of conflict. Everyone on your team has a common goal: the success of your project, the success of the team, the success of the product, and the success of all of your customers. When you can refocus your team on why we're all here in the first place, everyone can bring their unique motivations together, and a team can find cohesiveness towards finding success with all of these goals. The one thing a team leader must never do when a team is in conflict is ignore it. Pretend that maybe it will resolve on its own, or pretend that it doesn't really matter. Unmanaged conflict on a team can derail an entire project. It can destroy morale and decrease productivity. It can even cause project delays or even project failures. It can allow animosity to fester on a team, undermining the cohesiveness of the entire team. It can also destroy trust between you and the people that report to you. Unmanaged conflict on a team threatens everything, including your role as a leader. Another great risk of unmanaged conflict is this culture of not being able to freely speak. It can cause groupthink, where a team decides that the majority opinion is the right way to go and they keep dissent to themselves in order to keep the peace and perceived cohesiveness. But when someone has dissenting opinions, dissenting data that doesn't line up with what the team believes to be true, groupthink can occur, and that can cause great harm to your team, your project, your organization, and to you as a leader. The greatest thing that you can do as a team leader is to make sure that each one of your team members knows that they are a valued, important, and pivotal part of the success of any team. When each of your team members feels that, they bring their entire selves to an organization. They bring their entire selves to the success of a project. And as long as you can quickly and actively manage conflict and use it, leverage it to build a more resilient team, your team will find success. If you're interested in learning about the motivation code and how it can support you as a team leader, how it can support each person on your team in better understanding what it is that they're bringing to the team, what it is that they're bringing to the project, where it is that they can find the greatest fulfillment, check out motivationcode.com and see how this assessment can bring greater success to your team.